Hey everyone, and welcome to another Fireside Chat. I am joined by Talha Tariq, the Chief Security Officer at HashiCorp. Here's a Chief Security Officer at a developer-led organization. We're talking about ground zero for zero trust. So I think it's the first question everyone's thinking about here at the summit. What does zero trust mean at HashiCorp?
Good question, Kevin, and thank you for inviting me. Glad to be here. I think this is one of those questions which is like depends who you ask. I'll give you my view. I think my first principle level view is zero trust means a set of design principles and a coordinated cybersecurity strategy with an acknowledgement that your threats exist both in and outside of your network boundaries. So traditionally, I like to give an example of castle and moat, where a lot of programs and infrastructure designs in 80s, 90s, 2000s assume like everything within a data center we trust, everything out of the data center we don't trust. And a lot of security technologies are built that way. Like you'll put firewall or intrusion detection systems in a point where you're saying, I don't trust any traffic coming externally. I trust traffic between my nodes internally. So I think with cloud and modern architectures, that notion has changed quite a bit. And with zero trust model, you're basically eliminating implicit trust on any element, any node, any service,
Mhm.
any application. And you're making sure identity driven security strategy is very tightly ingrained into everything you're doing.
One of the things that we're talking about, and so thank you for bringing up the idea of principles, is taking this opportunity to document, to put down actually maybe on physical paper, the architecture, the principles that you're using. How do you, at HashiCorp, how do you share, across teams? How do you share those principles, that architecture that you're looking to have for the business?
Right. I think that's a great question. Even before the pandemic hit, we were a very remote friendly organization. When the company was three people, two founders and a CEO, they were all in different geographic locations. So HashiCorp was built with remote first
Mm.
experience in mind. And we have a very good model of, we call it the RFCs and PRD process, where the PRDs describe the problem statements, the RFCs provide recommended solutions to those problems, and it's a very written down culture. Written down culture means we put on paper very clear, articulate thoughts, assuming people who will be reading this won't be talking to me face to face. So have
Right.
all the context, have all the narrative, have all the questions and feedback loop from various stakeholders written down in
Mhm.
set of documents, whether those are design documents, spec documents, problem requirements, solutions, and allowing folks in different time zones to be able to consume these written form docs. So we go the extra mile and take extra pain, but written form communication is very important for us to make sure folks across different geographies, different time zones are able to get the same level of information across the company. So that's what we aim to do. We actually have a page on our website too called How HashiCorp Works, and there's a whole bunch of things we've open sourced and published transparently. So for folks who are interested, our RFC template, our PRD templates, they're all public information.
Oh, that's great. So definitely check those out. I know the team, one thing the team does really well is drawing pictures and drawing architecture designs, which seems simple. I know oftentimes we forget about it, but it's so powerful, especially too, go figure when you're working with engineers. Um,
Right.
so what do you spend your time on as chief security officer?
Oh man, this changes depending on the time horizon, and the spread has a balance between mostly inward versus external facing engagements. Like
Mhm.
as an example, early in quarters or where we are right now in the time horizon, we are very busy in planning for next year. So there's a lot of
Mhm.
time getting spent on planning strategy, 1 to 3 year outlook, talking to my peers across the company in engineering, in finance and legal, understanding where the company needs to go, what the business priorities are, translating those business priorities back into where and how security can help, and making sure the security strategy is in line with the business goals and outcomes. Um, as quarter start and end cycles go, there's a usually quite a bit of time looking into program effectiveness, security operations, talking to customers, understanding their needs, making sure the program is working well. As the company has grown, obviously my role has changed over time. Now we are a public company, so I spend quite a bit of time with our auditors, with our board of directors, with our audit committees, with our other stakeholders to make sure the program is working. Where a lot of day-to-day operations is now delegated down to a number of folks who are way more smarter than me on keeping HashiCorp safe.
Great insights, which then I think you bring up an interesting point. You talked about planning, for next year. So how do you balance the need, thinking about what's already been built um, and running, and you have to keep running, securing what's being built. Talk about planning, and then what will come along in the future. How do you try and balance that for you, your team, where you put your energy and focus?
Yeah, I think it starts with risk. Security is all about risk management,
Mhm.
understanding and prioritizing one, your crown jewels, which assets and information assets and business processes you need to focus more on. What and it's a bit threat modeling driven exercise to do risk management better, which is, yes, what is the probability and
Mhm.
severity of any of those assets getting compromised. So you basically start there, understand your posture, understand your footprint, understand the most critical risks that will impact the company, and you start there, and that helps translate into which systems need to be prioritized most, which controls need to exist on those systems, and how do you monitor for control and program effectiveness. Like, end of the day, like, no security team can secure everything, but how do you prioritize is a very risk driven exercise. So that's the model. And in terms of what's already here, we have a view into what are the most critical risks, serving the most critical applications and services, serving the most important customers. For example, customer trust is priority zero for us. Zero means it's the most highest priority.
Mhm.
And those systems and those applications and infrastructure obviously becomes the most highest assurance, along with the most critical business applications which are running the company. And then as we think about what's being built, making sure security, privacy, compliance, resiliency requirements are fed in for those teams to adopt along an a timeline, because sometimes some project may be an experimental project, so you don't want to overdo a lot of security things. You want to make sure experimental project, beta phase, alpha phase, GA phase, those phases drive the level of maturity expected for these controls to be built in. That's how I think about it, broadly speaking.
Yeah, that's. I mean, I think great insights. It's something for, I think, security professionals. It's a skill that we learn over time, understanding both the risk, the business importance, and where it is in maturity. I mean, there are those projects that teams are working on that are the science experiments, but there are those that might look like a science experiment, which are actually going to be the ones that shape the future of the business.
Right.
And I think that's what sets great leaders apart, is they understand that. And you talked about principles. How do you try and really create those principles or those patterns that developers, and I'm going to use the word, love, that developers love, that operations teams love? What's some secret sauce that you've developed, that makes the love start?
Great question, Kevin. So I'll give one philosophical answer, which is how I think about this, and then a practical example of how we solved like one class
Right.
of a problem. I think the philosophical answer here that I think is, developers, operators, they want to do the right thing. Sometimes they just don't have the right information or skill or tool or capability in an easy way to do the right thing. And I think as security professionals, the investments we should be making is helping people do the right thing. I mean, the reality in most companies is it's not the security team who's making security decisions. It's your developers, it's your operators, it's your folks who are the system administrators. They are making security decisions every single day, like who to give access, how do I turn on monitoring, and what the security requirements here are. So I think the way I think about like building patterns is, yes, building foundational patterns that though they can understand with their input, not like, hey, here's a bunch of requirements, try to implement them. It's like try to go live in their world and see what is their stack, what is their process,
Right.
what's their skill level like, what do they expect out of, how much hand holding do they need, and give them enough of tooling, prescription, guidance for them to be able to do the right thing. A practical example I'll give you is like when I joined HashiCorp, one of the things I was thinking through is I won't do vulnerability management the way I've done it before or the way I've seen it done before, which is go look at your environment, go scan for a bunch of vulnerabilities, take those vulnerabilities, rank them, try to figure out high, medium, low, and then chase people to go patch their stuff. The way we implemented a pattern was like nobody likes this model. Everybody hates it, including security people. But the way we thought about it was like, why don't we build a service and a pattern where we just do all the work for everybody? And the way we thought about this was rather than going to every team and scanning their stuff and telling them to patch, we'll build a service that builds the machine image, builds the container image, takes input from what dependency you need, harden the image, put up the monitoring stuff, and then that's like an image pipeline that we say, hey, everybody, just use this. We took your requirements, we tested it. There's a way for you to do all these integration testing. It's getting patched every single day. We are scanning stuff for you. We will not come to you to patch your stuff. Guess what model people like better? They're like, yes, this is great. This is making my life easy. Security actually cares about real security goals, not just giving us random noise to go patch. And that way, I think like patterns and implementation, things like this, whether it's like authorization library, crypto libraries, where you feel subject matter expertise or operation burden is, I think modern security teams will be contributing to helping operations better and more seamless.
A perfect example, and I know it's something that both Venafi and HashiCorp have been working together on. We this idea of a fast, secure, of thinking like a Formula One engineer, which is you've got a driver who's got amazing talent, who wants to go fast. Of course, you have to go safe to win the race, and that's of course what a Formula One engineer builds in. And I know it's something that, Venafi, we've been working on with the control plane for machine identity management. I know at HashiCorp, that cloud operating model, all same principles of consistency, observability, and control. Go fast. So I think those are great lessons. And I was going to say, too, you were talking about vulnerability management. In your world, as soon as you would have delivered something, the environment would have changed, of course. Uh,
Mhm.
I mean, so great example for thinking. So Tala, thank you so much for joining us. I know we could talk a whole bunch more. Team here, go connect up with Tala on LinkedIn. Go take a look at those HashiCorp resources, and we'll look forward to continuing those conversations.
Thank you, Kevin.